both in person and
This
on,
meeting is being recorded.
And via Zoom participants in this meeting. I appreciate you all being here. If I had the agenda, I would work off of it, but I'm struggling with the agenda right now. It's on the device I'm using for Zoom. I tried to forward it to myself, but it came up in a file format that my phone was unfamiliar with. This is the meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Board of Directors for July 22, 2021. Madam Clerk. Oh no. My daughter wanted to call me on my Amazon device. It's how I have fun with the kids. Anyhow, this meeting is for the purpose of discussing negotiations, and I don't believe it is a public meeting. Is it?
It is, Director Kelly. So we're going to open the regular session and then we'll recess to closed session.
All right. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers? This is an opportunity to discuss matters on the agenda or not on the agenda. Like I said, pardon me?
Yeah, so I think, do we want to do the salute to the flag?
How about, yeah, once you don't have the thing in front of you, so
yeah.
Call to order. We need to do the roll call, and then we need
okay.
And then go to
call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Gold.
Here.
Valley.
Here.
Wood.
Here.
Sheets. Here. Jones.
Here.
White. Not present. Clerk.
Present.
Taylors.
Here.
Here. All right. Salute to the flag. Please excuse me if I do not stand. Please repeat after Mr. Delman Clark.
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of
the United States of America
and to
the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
And so, President Kelly, we do have, I'll do the Metro Cable announcement, the open session.
Thank you.
Videotape for Cablecast on Metro Cable 14. Replay on Monday, July 26th at 6 p.m. and Thursday, July 29th at 9 p.m. on Channel 14, webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. And then we do have a speaker, but we're going to do public comment after closed session. And he is aware of that.
All right.
Later for us.
Okay. At this time, would we close the regularly called meeting and go to closed session? All right, then. See you all on that side. We will adjourn or bring back the meeting, regularly scheduled meeting for July 22nd, 2021. All right, then. I'm without the agenda. So next item on our agenda would be?
Okay, so report out from closed session from General Counsel Lavra.
Thank you.
Thank you. The board met in closed session with respect to agenda item number 1, conference with its labor negotiator for the bargaining groups identified in the agenda. No reportable action was taken. The board also met in closed session to consider issues regarding the industrial disability retirement claim of Dolezal. Local action was taken in the public session. That's all. Thank you.
Excellent. So now we have the public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within district jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. And I did have a gentleman named Matthew Carr contact me. I see you there.
Hi there.
Mr.
Okay, excellent. If you'd like to proceed.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, Honorable Board, thank you very much for your time. I want to start out by thanking the district for its service and all of the firefighters, both from the standpoint as a former 11-year prosecutor. I appreciate that law enforcement is a difficult endeavor, especially these days, and getting more difficult. Also from the standpoint of an avid river user, I'm a kayaker, stand-up paddleboarder, swimmer, etc. The main reason that I'm taking the time to comment to you today is to bring to the board's attention what I perceive and what many people that I know perceive to be a problem with the speed of the operation of the fire rescue boat on the Lower American River. I'm not sure whether this has been brought to the board's attention heretofore, but I've been a active user of the river for over 10 years. And each and every time that I've seen the fire rescue boat on the river, it has been operating at what seems to be top speed or a very rapid speed. I do understand that emergencies are the primary reason that the boat exists and that time is of the essence, especially when drownings or other water rescue needs to occur. But I would like to just comment for a few minutes about my thoughts on this, and also the fact that my thoughts represent my friends and others who have discussed this matter with me over the years. First of all, from the standpoint of public safety, the boat seems to tear through crowds, and I don't mean to be melodramatic, but that seems to be the way it is. There are kayakers, stand-up paddleboarders, people on large craft, people of varying state of inebriation, varying abilities to swim, and the boat just seems to go through these crowds with almost no consideration for the people. I recognize there is a spotter, but people who experience this on the river are always aghast at this. And this is a mixed crowd of folks from all appearances, and everybody shares a moment of unity by just being wowed by the speed and seeming recklessness by which the boat proceeds. I almost never, if ever, have seen it move slowly. And one would think that at some point, the boat would be moving at a normal, safe rate of speed, maybe when it's not responding to an emergency. But I have personally never seen that. And recognizing the limits of anecdotes, I do want to point that out. I want to, point out that there are poor swimmers, the water's cold, stand-up paddleboards are really susceptible to wakes, as are kayakers. People have varying levels of ability, and it's just a dangerous situation from the standpoint of public safety. I think accidents are easily foreseeable. Secondly, from the standpoint of a taxpayer, I don't like to see possible accidents. I myself am an attorney. I point to, a Caltrans lawsuit where there was a $52 million settlement for a wrongful death. The board is now on notice of this issue if it hasn't been prior, and I really would like, from a fiscal conservative standpoint, the board to take a look at my suggestion that I'll conclude with in just a couple of moments. Third is the erosion of the banks of the Lower American River, an environmental standpoint. When the boats go very quickly, the wake is large, and I've seen it with my own eyes. I also have a degree in environmental science, and you can see the impacts to the banks. We're spending millions of dollars to try to impact or decrease the amount of erosion on the banks of the Lower American River, and it's troubling to see the government essentially tear through and harm the riverbanks. I of course recognize that this harm is absolutely necessary when the boat needs to move at top speed. My entire point is that the boat seems to be moving at top speed far too frequently. Finally, the perceptions of the community are important. This is a challenging time for law enforcement. Again, speaking as former law enforcement, I recognize that fire is maybe not your traditional police law enforcement, but you folks are the first responders and you are the eye of the community. And I would suggest to you that if you aren't familiar with the universal condemnation that is experienced by river users when the boat goes down the American River, as it does at almost always top speed through crowds, there is a very strong sense of condemnation. And frankly, people seem to think that it's a bunch of boys on the fire boat that get the plum job and are having a great time. And while I want our firemen and women, our professionals, to have a great time in their job, I don't want that to be done at the expense of public safety. So for those reasons, my suggestion is that the board take a close look at the rate of operation of the boat on the Lower American River, for safety, fiscal, environmental, and public perception reasons, that it goes slower and it goes at a top speed only when necessary. and only when necessary can't be left to the discretion of the user on the boat. I would like the board to explore developing criteria by which or under when the use of speed is authorized. I get that it's sometimes authorized, but it seems to be done way too frequently. And I think it's a danger on the river. I really thank the board for its time. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have. And I would like to conclude with the observation that although I'm maybe the only person or one of the few people to bring this to your attention, nobody wants to sit here for 4 hours and wait for the public comment. And I would just urge the board to recognize that the volume of comments is not reflective of their importance. Thank you so very much.
Are there any questions from board members? Seeing no questions, thank you very much for your comments, sir. And I'm certain that they will not go unwarranted.
I hope so. Thank you so much. Best wishes.
All right, so now we will move on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions from the board?
Any questions on the consent agenda? What is your pleasure?
Chairman.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Director Clark, excuse me, and a second by Director Woods. Thank you.
Excellent.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
So I neglected to mention Director Gould left the meeting at 8:33, so he's no longer in attendance. Director Orzali?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Sheets?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
White?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Sailors?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, so the next item is the action item for the industrial disability retirement for engineer Douglas Dolezal.
Mr. Chair, I move staff's recommendation.
Second.
We've got a motion by Director Jones, a second by Director Woods. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Orzali?
Aye.
Wood?
Aye.
Sheets?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
White?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Sailors?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Motion passes. So the next item is the public hearing, and I will turn it over to Ken Campo for staff presentation.
Thank you, Michelle. I believe we have a PowerPoint presentation. Here we go. So while we get that pulled up, President Kelly, members of the board, advance to the first slide. So just as a reminder, on June 24th, the board provided direction with the 2007 lease revenue bond refunding transaction. We talked about doing a private placement and doing a rate lock program where we can lock in the rate now to take advantage of low interest rates and then actually refund the bonds next year at the first opportunity to do that. And we'll get into the details of that. So on June 29th, we did distribute the lender RFPs that we talked about last meeting. Those proposals came in. They were due on July 13th. Staff has gone through an evaluation of those proposals with our financing team. And let me back up a moment. I should say that we have Rick Brandis and Michael Garcia representing Brandis, Tallman / Oppenheimer, who acted as placement agents for this transaction. And Jones Hall is acting as bond counsel. And we have Judy Lunderlich with us this evening. But so they put together the lender RFP, sent those proposals out, and got quite a good response back. I think that district's financial credit worthiness was well presented here, and we got a really good response, and we'll go through those proposals. And then this evening, the public hearing to approve approve the financing documents. And then if that goes forward this evening, then on August 10th, we would do the pre-close where we actually locked in the interest rate. And then sometime in February of 2022, we would actually do the refunding transaction of the prior bonds. So with that, we go to the next slide, and I'll turn it over to Rick Brandis and Michael Garcia. It's a little difficult to see the proposals on the slide, but they can walk through the summary and the responses. And Rick,
Okay. Yeah. Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Rick Brandis from Oppenheimer. I'm joined by Michael Garcia. Thank you for having us, and it's good to see you again. I know the summary sheet before you is very small. The print is very small, but as Mr. Campo mentioned, on June 29th, we distributed a lender request for proposal, and we went out to 15 banks, and we received 5 proposals for this refunding, which is a forward rate lock refunding. To provide more details about it and more on the results of the RFP, I'll have Michael Garcia join me right now. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Good evening, everyone. Just to kind of recap what Ken and Rick have kind of alluded to, this was a competitive process. We went out to 15 banks and received 5 proposals, which we were very excited about, especially given kind of the unique structure that we have here with the forward rate lock. Most banks will only lock the rate for 30 to 60 days typically, and here we were able to get 5 banks to submit a proposal where they would actually hold the rate through February of next year. So that was a great result. The range of bids came in from a low of 2.53% with Capital One to a high of 3.14% with Western Alliance. And I guess just to kind of narrow in on that proposal from Capital One, that was the lowest bid at 2.53%. Because it was the lowest bid, it provides the most savings for the district. A couple points I want to highlight about Capital One's proposal. One, the rate is locked through February of next year. 2 are the prepayment terms. Their proposal offers a 10-year par call for the financing. So the loan would be able to be called at par, which means no prepayment penalty after 10 years, which is pretty standard. In terms of additional costs, Capital One's proposal does not have a bank counsel fee. Typically, we see one in there, and that ranges anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000. So that was an added benefit of their proposal, that they do not include a bank counsel fee. But overall, it was a successful RFP process. We were happy to get the 5 proposals, and I think if we go on to the next slide, we can discuss the numerical results of that proposal from Capital One. I think it's larger on the next slide. Yeah.
Looks like it's loading.
Is it?
oh, it advances on the click.
Oh, got it. Can we
Okay.
Can we pull them all up? Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. So again, these financing statistics are based off of the proposal from Cap One. It's based off of an interest rate of 2.53%. Again, the rate is locked through February of next year. The all-in true interest cost, which includes the cost of issuance, is 2.71%. And this will produce average annual savings of about $133,000 per year. Total savings of just over $2.5 million, and total net present value savings of just over $2 million, or about 24%, I believe, that next bullet point.
Click one more time, please. There you go.
Yeah.
Emphasize that net present value savings is almost 25% of the remaining principal. we're very, very pleased with that.
Yeah, exactly. So we're very pleased with the rates. It works really well. This is, a great opportunity for the district to, get a lot of cash flow savings.
Right. And keep in mind that the standard in public finance for refunding set by most agencies is really 3% to 5% net present value savings. So getting almost 25% net present value savings is really an anomaly. It's a very good anomaly. Okay.
Maybe this is a good time to mention that we're having further discussions with the bank regarding the repayment terms that could even make this a little more attractive.
Right. Both Michael and I will talk about it, but one idea is to move the payment dates. Right now, your 2011 bonds have payment dates in May and November. If we move them to July and January, the payment dates would be closer to when the district receives the property tax collection. So if we do that, we actually can shorten the term of the refunding loan a little bit more, and it creates more overall savings. In fact, pushing your first payment from May of 22 to July of 22, you will not have a payment in the current fiscal year.
Oh my God, that's excellent.
Yeah, the district would save about $465,000 up front. The annual savings would go down a little bit by only about $15,000 a year, but the overall savings will increase. The total savings would increase by probably another $65,000. And Michael, do you want to add to that comment?
I think you covered all the points there, but yeah.
I think what that does,
I don't have anything to add.
Rick or Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but that it really pushes this more up front, right? So it gets more savings earlier on than later. That's
correct. So like Rick mentioned, because we're moving out that payment to the next fiscal year, the one that you would typically have this May, instead of making that payment, it's just all becomes savings. So the savings are pushed up front. And like Rick mentioned, approximately $465,000 in this current fiscal year. And because of that, it lowers the average annual savings thereafter by like 10 to 15,000. But like Rick mentioned, total overall savings, total net present value savings, that will all increase slightly.
So we're still working with the bank on that, but it all fits within the structure that you would be.
Yes, and we've been speaking to them about it, and we got word today that they're completely fine with us changing the structure the way we've just laid out. Yeah, Capital One's a very easy to work with bank. We really like doing business with them.
I think we have one more bullet on this slide that talked about the private placement versus a traditional certificate of participation bond issue. So, we don't have the underwriting costs. They're not marketing these things out to the public and to institutions. We're not doing an official statement for the bond issue. So it represents a much lower cost financing structure overall. Any gentlemen would like to add to that?
One point oh, go ahead, Rick.
Michael, I'll add one more point, but go ahead.
I was just going to add that, because this is a private placement, we were able to lock the rate today already. And if we had proceeded with a public offering and closing, down the line in February, we wouldn't have been able to lock these rates in today. We would have been subjected to more market risk.
Correct. In addition to that, we're saving on the fact that we do not need a rating That fee would be about $15,000 to $20,000. We would not have, as Ken Campo mentioned, we would not have disclosure counsel needed, nor a trustee. And we don't need a reserve fund. On your 2011 bonds, you have a reserve fund. We don't need one here. And that's a big cost.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and now we'll spend a little bit of time looking at the lease structure and the documents. We'll talk about the documents that you'll be approving. We won't spend a lot of time on this because it's late and I appreciate your time. If we can go to the next slide. This is the watch my hands, they never leave my arms slide. Okay. This private placement will be, it's basically a lease and sublease structure. So we'll be, Station 50 is the subject of the lease. The current financing encumbers Station 50, Station 110, and Station 111. But because we're now, more than halfway through paying off the original 2011 bonds, we can reduce the facilities that are encumbered here. So we can free up stations 110 and 111 and just leave Station 50 as the basically the collateral for the financing. So the way it works is and we're using this financing corporation as the mechanism to do the lease and sublease arrangement, not unlike the 2011 lease revenue bonds. So Station 50 is leased to the financing corporation in exchange for the lease proceeds. So the lease proceeds you see flowing over to the district. The district then subleases Station 50 back from the financing corporation in exchange for annual payments that the district will be making. So it's actually a pretty simple structure. If we go to the next slide, you can see the actual flow of the funds. In this case, the financing corporation assigns its rights to receive those annual payments to the bank, and the bank being, in this case, Capital One. So Capital One ends up receiving the annual payments in exchange for depositing those lease proceeds of $8 million into an escrow. And that money's going to sit there until February, and then it's going to be used to repay it'll be done in February, and it'll be used to repay the 2011 bonds. So that's kind of how the flow of funds works. And that's really it. It's a pretty, pretty straightforward transaction. And again, just to point out, typically in like the last lease revenue bond transaction, the COP transaction, those lease payments would be broken up into a number of different smaller bonds that would be marketed to individuals, and that's where all that cost comes in. So this is really an efficient way to achieve this refunding transaction. So the next slide. So our recommendation to the board would be to hold the public hearing and take any comments from the public. Afterwards, close the public hearing and then open it up for board discussion. And then finally, adopt the resolution in your packet that's approving the refunding transaction and authorizing the execution of those legal documents, the lease and sublease and the assignment agreements. With that, glad to answer any questions the board has, or we move into the public hearing.
Are there any questions of board members? Seeing no questions, I guess we will proceed with the public hearing.
Okay, excellent. So this is the time and place for the public hearing on the execution and delivery by the district of a tax-exempt lease and sublease agreement in the not-to-exceed amount of $8,500,000. The proceeds of which will be used to refinance the 2011 lease revenue bonds issued to finance the district's headquarters project located at 10545 Armstrong Avenue in Mayfair, California. A portion of the headquarters project may be leased to a not-for-profit organization. The district will enter into a lease and sublease agreement in order to refinance the 2011 lease revenue bonds. And this public hearing is being held under section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code, which requires that in order for interest on this lease and sublease agreement to qualify as tax exempt, an applicable elected representative of a government entity having jurisdiction, are they still there?
Yes, they're still there.
Okay.
Something else. I just on for a walk.
Having jurisdiction over the project must hold a public hearing and approve the financing plan. The board of directors is the applicable elected representative of the district for purposes of section 147F. The public hearing is now officially opened. We will receive comments and questions from any interested persons. When all comments have been received, the hearings will be closed. So now is the time for comments and questions from the audience or anybody on Zoom. So I'll give Art an opportunity to unmute all attendees to see if we have any public comment.
There are no other public attendees. Steve Jordan is on. Want to give him a chance?
No. Okay, excellent. So that will officially close the hearing. The board of directors may ask any questions they have with regards to the project, which there are none, I believe. Perfect. So now, President Kelly, if you would like to see if anyone wants to entertain a motion.
Close
Close. The hearing is closed.
Mr. President, I move staff recommendation for adoption, approving the financing and all related documents.
Second.
All right, Director Jones made the motion. Director Clark seconded. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Rosali.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Sailors.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is the reports. So the first is the president's report. President Kelly.
We have nothing under the president's report.
Okay, and fire chief's report, Chief Harms.
I have about a 45-minute report. You guys want to say?
Bedtime for
Or would you like to? Okay, I got three things. One is thanks to the attendance by a few directors at Station 61. We had a dedication on Tuesday for engineer Bob Warner. Just a great attendance out there and being there with his family. Yeah, he still lives literally across the street, across the railroad tracks, and I'm just glad we were able to get the program back post-COVID going again and everything, and thank you for your support. We had a 2x2 on Wednesday with the County Board of Supervisors. I thought it was just, again, another great meeting to discuss issues kind of across the district, and really just, that's probably, what do you think, the fourth one that we maybe have done, or fifth one? It's just such a good.
It's great because even the county exec is engaged.
The county exec is engaged now, and she has been just wonderful behind the scenes also type stuff in communication. And the last one I'm just gonna say is we have a second alarm going right now. We do. Second alarm that is going on right now out there. So I'm not gonna text you. I will. I'm gonna text you a little bit. I have to send a picture later on. That ends my report unless you have any questions for me right now.
All right, operations report for Chief Green.
Thank
Operations
you.
report.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, President Kelly. Directors, Chief Harms, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm standing in for Chief Mitchell, who is out of town this week. Just a couple quick updates for you. Our Recruit Academy 21-1 is ending its third week tomorrow, standing strong at 22 recruits. And Drill Master Captain Todd reports all recruits have great attitudes and working hard. A note from the EMS division, we have a kudos for one of our crews. Engine 61 and Medic 55 on the A shift were recognized by the UC Davis STEMI Care Coordinator on June 18th for the care of a heart attack patient. The early notification of the hospital provided advanced care and warning to their team. The patient made a full recovery after having 2 blockages cleared in the cath lab. So that's an absolute win for, I think, what the acute care system looks like at UC Davis and also our 911 EMS system. To give you our standard operations numbers since our last meeting on July 8th, we have a total of 4,313 calls. We responded to a total of 14 structure fires, 4 of which were in our jurisdiction. One of which right now is the 2-alarm fire that we currently have working in North Highlands. And just prior to the start of our meeting tonight, we also had a apartment fire in Rancho Cordova. Our busiest engine remains engine 53 with 239 responses. And this go around, Medic 101, comes out on top as the busiest with 196 responses. And I'll close with you tonight with just a brief update on our current deployments for our contracted Master Mutual Aid System participation. We have one of our OES engines currently at the Tamarack fire with 4 personnel. That's the fire south of Lake Tahoe near Markleyville. As of right now, they'll likely do their full 14-day deployment. We have one engine, OES 8433, at the Bootleg fire in Oregon as part of a task force of several engines made up throughout Northern California. They're expecting demobilization within 1 or 2 days, but we do anticipate they may get redirected back into the system, either for another fire in Washington or Northern California. And lastly, Captain Dwayne Miller is deployed to the state of Washington at the Summit Trail Fire as part of his incident management team. And just for context, as you know, California has had quite a busy fire season the last couple of years, and Cal OES has reached out to both Oregon and the state of Washington for assistance, and they've provided it. So if anyone's ever curious about why we're sending personnel to Washington, this is all in Oregon. This is part of our agreement with Cal OES, and it's nice to see that the large state agencies are reciprocating each other. We're in contact with our members daily. The shift commanders are, and they're doing well. They're working hard, a bit tired, but we're pleased to be able to provide that service. That's the end of my report. Happy to take any questions if you have.
Thank you for your report.
You're welcome.
Any questions of Chief Green? Seeing none, thank you again.
Thank you.
Moving on to reports of committees and delegates.
So we have the local 522, and then.
Oh, thank you. Mr. McGoldrick, are you available?
I am. Good evening, President Kelly and Board of Directors. I'll be quick. It's getting late. Not a whole lot to report this week. We continue to struggle with some staffing issues, and mandatory callbacks are on the rise. The membership is doing what they can to fully staff our stations. Occasionally, we are falling short due to situations outside of our control, but we're working with administration to come up with solutions moving forward. And as I said last meeting, the lateral process is now closed. It looks like we've got a pretty good pool of people, and we do have the academy class in addition to a single role academy that'll be starting shortly. So that'll help take some of that load off, but we're looking for solutions long-term. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGoldrick. Any questions of the captain? Seeing none. All right, thank you again. Moving on with committees and delegates.
Executive committee, if you'd like to report anything.
Executive committee has nothing to report.
And then Communications Center JPA from Chief Wagman.
Thank you, and good evening, directors. The Comm Center JPA last met here in the board chambers on July 13th. During that meeting, an award was presented to Supervisor Julie Todd. She was selected as Trainer of the Year through NAPCO, so congratulations to Julie. We also had a brief conversation with the executive staff at the center requesting a workshop to sit down with Paraton, our current CAD vendor, as well as our future CAD vendor for our new product, to just give us an update on the progress of that project. So we look forward to pinpointing a date here in the near future where we can sit down with Paraton and get a good update on where we're at with the new product. That concludes my report. We're going to meet again on August 10th.
Thank you for your report, Chief Wagman.
So next is California Fire and Rescue Training, JPA, Chief Harms.
No report. Next meeting will be actually in August sometime. To be determined.
Thank you.
Finance.
Finance Committee?
Finance Committee did not meet this evening, but as a representative of it, I wanted to take an opportunity to thank the staff for the extraordinary work they did in putting this this package together. I know what a challenge it is to bring this data together, and you did a fantastic job. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Policy Committee. Director Gould is unavailable. I imagine nothing is happening with the Policy Committee that can't wait till next meeting. All right then. Board members, questions and comments? Board members, starting with you, Director White.
No report.
Director Sheets.
No report.
Director Wood.
No report.
Director Jones.
Thanks to staff for all the information that was shared tonight.
Director Orzali.
Report.
Director Clark.
No comment.
Director Sailors.
No report. Thank you.
All right then. I have nothing to add except for thank you for all the information that was given tonight. Everybody have a good evening, and we will see you next meeting.
Thanks, President Kelly.
Thank you.
This adjourns the meeting. Thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.